All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have news about the other trade that the Cowboys were working on around NFL draft time, which was one of the two substantive trades that Jerry Jones alluded to. Unfortunately, this comes with a teensy bit of bad news, but also, if we keep it in a buck, bro, the Cowboys, they put themselves in damn good shape, and honestly, it still isn't over yet. You can't convince me that the Joneses will be able to keep themselves from bargain bin shopping on some value deals post June 1st. Either way, let's get right into the news, and be sure to subscribe for more Dallas Cowboys content like nobody else can bring you on the regular. And leave a like on the video. Shut your up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so Jordan Schultz has actually reported that during their pursuit of a receiver, the Cowboys also looked into a trade for Ravens wide receiver Rashad Bateman. Those talks didn't go far, and Dallas ultimately struck a post-draft deal with the Steelers for George Pickens. Dallas's search for another receiver was a months-long process. And according to people behind the scenes, and I'm going to actually read another aspect of these reports that's coming out about this Rashad Bateman deal, but I actually have some insider information, some legit inside information from people within the Star that kind of broke down how this whole thing kind of played out. So y'all be sure to stick around if you want to know where some of the confusion may have come from and why it took so long for the Cowboys to actually get this deal to happen. But before we do, I do want to kind of put attention on this tweet here by John Machota. He said, Pittsburgh Steelers GM Omar Khan on why they traded wide receiver George Pickens to the Cowboys. He said, quote, the trade sort of happened quickly. We had some people inquire during the draft, nothing that really made sense. The Cowboys reached out earlier this week. They proposed something for us to think about. We had conversations internally. Quote, we also had some conversation with George's agent, Dave Mulligetta, who I have a good relationship with. We discussed where things have been with George, where they are, and where things could go with George, and this trade made sense for everyone. We just felt that a fresh start for both sides was the right thing. Khan said Pickens never asked to leave, and this is actually the perfect chance to talk about a point that was actually made by a part of the AOC family, the Attack On Family. Someone in my comments, I believe on my last show with Ray, y'all be sure to check that out. It was a banger. But someone on my last show actually made an amazing point, and they actually stated this. What if Mike Tomlin, who traded George Pickens, while everyone's trying to make it like a negative, what if Mike Tomlin actually traded George Pickens because he was trying to look out for the kid? He was trying to actually allow that dude to spread his wings and really blossom into the player that he could be. You see, while Uncle Tom's like Ryan Clark on TV trying to condemn George Pickens because the Steelers are trying to give that kid a fresh start, what if Mike Tomlin, being the players coach that he is, being the mentor, the father figure type of coach that he is, what if he was able to identify that, man, this is not a good situation for George. This kid is wasting his talent here in Pittsburgh. Let me do right by him. Let's talk to him. Let's talk to his agent. Let's see how we can get him to a quarterback that can really take advantage of the type of player that he truly is, because we haven't been able to provide that for him yet, and we still don't have a quarterback. The Steelers still don't have a quarterback. So what if Tomlin traded one of the weapons that whatever quarterback they end up running out there absolutely will need? What if Mike Tomlin traded George Pickens because he was actually trying to look out for the kid? And I think that that's worth discussing, just that last bit right there, that they had conversations with David Mulligetta. And David Mulligetta actually played a part in, I guess, getting George Pickens to Dallas. So that should actually make us feel a little bit better about the status or the situation with Micah Parsons' contract negotiations, because David Mulligetta is also Micah Parsons' agent as well. And if David Mulligetta played a part in getting George Pickens to Dallas, first of all, David Mulligetta, we appreciate you, my brother. We still need that contract done without you trying to bend us over the table, but we appreciate you, my brother. All right. But if he had a part in getting George Pickens to Dallas, then to me, that means maybe that relationship isn't as strained as we think, or he could be doing an incredibly long con and trying to get George here to get a bag real quick and to score in the Cowboys and leave us a free agency to really stick it to us. I don't know, man. It could be a package deal. What if Micah and George both go? I'm not going to put that back in the universe. Matter of fact, cut that part out. Let me grab it back, put it in my pocket. That's not going out into the ether, all right? But this is actually some very interesting news. Now, the thing that made me kind of scratch my head about this is the Pittsburgh Steelers GM said the Cowboys didn't inquire or reach out to them about George Pickens until this week, until I guess earlier this week, around the time we really started hearing some of the stuff. It seems like the Cowboys didn't really reach out until this week, but yet Jerry said that there were 2 substantive trades in the works as early as April 22nd, which is definitely not this week, quote unquote. So was the Rashad Bateman trade one of the 2 trades that was being teased by Jerry Jones, or was it not? That's the question that's being asked right now. I'm going to say we're going to lean safe, and we're going to say that, yes, the Rashad Bateman trade was the other substantive trade that the Cowboys may have been working on. Maybe. Obviously, we don't know. This isn't an exact science, so we kind of just got to play things by ear, and that's why you need to subscribe, so that way if anything changes, you'll be the first to know, because I'll be the first to know, and I'll let you guys know, right? But maybe the Rashad Bateman trade was the second of those other trades, or those 2 substantive trades, and maybe we ain't going to get another trade, y'all. And I will say this. Even if we don't get another trade, I'm perfectly fine with the roster that they put together. I think they did a damn good job solidifying the depth. I think they did a damn good job adding a serious playmaker on the offensive side of the ball. And they added a couple of playmakers on the defensive side of the ball via the draft. And I think they did a damn good job patching up the parts of their team that were sorely underwhelming. And I think that we'll be okay. I think we'll be okay with the roster as is. But I will say this again. I think that it would behoove you guys to pay attention to the post-June 1st cuts for the rest of these teams out here, because I strongly believe the Cowboys are probably going to be players in that post-June 1st cut market, because usually those players don't get a lot of money, for one, and those are usually veteran players that just don't fit into the scheme or plan of some of these teams anymore. They may be on some heftier contracts that these teams are trying to get from under. So these are usually some decent players that get post-June 1st. So if we get a veteran corner, maybe Jair Alexander gets post-June 1st cut since he hasn't found a trade partner yet. Teams may be afraid of his injury history. Maybe he gets post-June 1st cut, and we can get Jair Alexander in here that way. But either way, I do think that it's safe to assume the Cowboys were looking at Rashad Bateman as that second or the other option for that receiver position, or in that substantive trade talk that Jerry had going on. Now, to kind of give you guys inside information of how this all played out, where the Rashad Bateman, where the George Pickens stuff kind of plays a role here, right? So the Cowboys were actually talking to both the Ravens and the Steelers at the same time, and the Ravens had a price that the Cowboys were just not willing to pay for Rashad Bateman. So while they were trying to stall the Ravens out, they essentially started conversations about George Pickens during draft week. It didn't materialize into anything, so then the Cowboys went back to the Ravens after the draft was over. They went back to the Ravens to see if they could make that trade happen, and they could not actually make the trade happen there, right? The price was still too high. The Ravens still didn't come off of whatever price it was they had tapped for Rashad Bateman. They did not come off of that price. So the Cowboys said, nah, forget that. We're going to go get George. And I got to be honest, bro, that was the right decision right there. And that's actually legitimately what happened. I'm telling y'all inside information right there. That is what an insider told me word for word, right? But I got to tell y'all, the Cowboys made the right decision. I mean, and it's not even close, bro. George Pickens has been a much better professional than Rashad Bateman. He's played less games, and he has way better career statistics than Rashad Bateman. The only thing Rashad Bateman got more of George Pickens in is touchdowns, and that's just because he had 9 this past season. Other than that, George Pickens is smoking him in literally every single category, and I would much rather have the more reliable guy in George Pickens as it pertains to him being able to actually suit up and play on Sundays than having a guy like a Rashad Bateman who's missed quite a bit of time and honestly just hasn't had that successful of a career. I mean, if you look at it, his best season was this last season where he had 756 yards. Before that, this was a sub 400-yard type of guy. So I am glad that the Ravens tried to strong wall the Cowboys because it ended up making us make the smarter move at the end of the day, y'all. But either way, y'all know how we're going to end these mugs. How about them Cowboys, and yes, I'm still wearing my shiesty because, damn it, it's a real Wyatt party. You cannot get in. Pickens off the Drake and Dak off the hands. See y'all
calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me, am I still them boys? Y'all usually check on me. Listen. I'm still them boys. Hey! Woo! Hey! I'm still them boys.